Hey there and welcome back, adventurers. Today we'll be going over the build that has made me millions of silver at a very low cost. If you're new to Albion Online, I strongly recommend that you make this build yours and focus your mastery on these items. Especially if you're a solo player like most of Albion Online players, this will definitely help you out. Now, the more mastery that you get into this build, the cheaper the build will be, and the reason for this is that players with higher mastery can get more out of lower tier items in comparison with a new player with the minimal required mastery. So what can this build be used for? I'll be going over that shortly, as well as which abilities to take in different scenarios and how the build works as well. As solo players in Albion Online, you will always be wondering what content you can do to maximize your time efficiency and to maximize your silver making. With this build, you'll be able to solo any tier solo dungeons in yellow, red, or black zones. If you ever want to venture out into the roads, you'll be able to gather and kill difficult mobs that provide more materials. You will also be able to farm a bunch of combat fame in the roads off of elites. Like I mentioned earlier, this build is a very cheap build and provides a low amount of risk. If you decide to go out to the black zone to farm combat fame or gather, you can easily kill empowered mobs in any tier zone, and if you do get caught out and killed, you will have already made more silver off of mobs alone than what the build itself costs. Now that we know what you can do, let's talk about the build. So for your weapon, you will go with the Druidic staff. It is by far my favorite nature weapon when it comes to soloing everyday content. It provides a high amount of damage over time with your first ability, Thorns. You can place Thorns down up to 3 times around or on your mobs. Thorns will cause damage over time and slow your target. In addition, the enemy mob will gain a thorn debuff that stacks up to 5 times. You want to make sure that you are auto-attacking the affected targets because your auto-attack will pop these thorn debuffs and cause a great amount of damage. The damage over time from thorns and your auto-attacks will be the main source of damage for you. Make sure to use your 3 thorn charges wisely as you spread them out to maximize the debuff uptime. When it comes to your second ability, you have 2 major options. If you're doing content that you can easily kill or killing normal mobs in and outside of solo dungeons, then I recommend taking Bramble Seeds. This will maximize your damage output. You can use Bramble Seeds to interrupt mobs and players as it will knock them up into the air for after about half a second. Now, if you find yourself fighting bosses, empowered mobs, or elite mobs in the roads, I would recommend taking Protection of Nature until you have a good amount of mastery. Protection of Nature does a few things really well. It will first heal you for a small amount and increase your defense, lowering the amount of damage that you take. It will also increase the amount of healing that you receive by 35%. This is very useful since you can pair this up with the rest of your sustain to maximize your healing received. Now, your third ability, which is unique to the Druidic staff, is called Spiritual Seed. The important things to know about the Spiritual Seed is that it will heal you after a couple of seconds for a large amount. If you're using Protection of Nature, make sure to pair them up for a larger heal. Now, you do get 2 charges of Spiritual Seed, so if you're running with a friend, you can use 1 on each. However, if you're running alone, make sure not to use the Spiritual Seed twice on yourself. It will reset the 2 seconds before it heals you, and it will put the ability on an even longer cooldown. So for your passive, you will take Energetic. This will give you a bit of energy for every auto attack. Now, let's talk about your other items. For your helmet, you can really go with whichever you prefer. I personally like to take the Mage Cowl. It is very cheap and provides you with a lot of AoE damage. So for your helmet's main ability, I would recommend going with Fire Breath, which puts an AoE dot on all targets in front of you in a cone. You will go with Aggression as your passive, which will increase your damage by 3.5%. So pretty much make sure to round up all your mobs and make sure to hit them all with a cone of fire to quickly kill them. Your armor piece is very important when it comes to soloing with this build. I go with the Mercenary jacket to take advantage of the armor piece's ability, Bloodlust. Now, this allows you to regain health as you auto attack. As you might have picked up from this build, your auto attacks are very important. Now, always be auto attacking. You can get up to 7 auto attacks worth of heals from Bloodlust, so make sure to set your thorns down to maximize your damage output at the same time. You can even pair this up with Protection of Nature for the increased healing from both abilities. Now, your passive will be Balanced Mind for the increased damage and healing. For your offhand, I like going with Torch. The Torch is very cheap in price and provides you with a cooldown reduction, which will give you more damage output. You will also get attack speed increase. As I mentioned before, auto attacks are your best friend, so having the increased attack speed will really help against more difficult enemies. For your boots, I recommend going with Soldier Boots. They are very versatile with this build and other builds, so taking the time to level up the mastery on them will save you a lot of time in the long run. For your abilities, you will go with the Rejuvenating Sprint, which increases your movement speed and provides you with a heal over time. Albion Online tends to be much slower compared to other games, so having the increased speed on a small cooldown is important at a lot of levels. So your passive will be Toughness for the increased defense. This will help you as you will be running solo and need to reduce the damage that you take as much as possible. Like I mentioned earlier, if you're new to the game or have been playing for a few months and have been looking for the best build for you, I am more than confident that this build will increase your combat fame farming, your silver earning, and maximize your content as a solo player. Now, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. I will be making more Albion Online content and cover other MMOs. Until then, make sure to stay epic, stay legendary, and I'll see you in the next video.